Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to be getting started in a couple of minutes' time, so go and grab yourselves a cup of tea, make yourself comfortable, and we'll see you shortly. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the G Suite for Distance Learning webinar for Northern Ireland schools. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to be joined by a number of speakers. So we have me, I'm Kiri Gooch, and I'm the National Accounts Manager in the Google for Education team. We have Lawrence, who is a Google certified trainer from Apps Events, and will be taking you through some of the tools today. We have Esther, an e-learning consultant from C2k. And we have Alistair, who is an implementation consultant from C2k. And I'm sure some of you already know some of the speakers today as well. As you'll see down the right-hand side, you're able to leave comments and post questions. So please feel free to do so. As we go through the webinar today, we'll be choosing questions to answer out loud. And if there is anything specific that we can answer on chat, we'll make sure that we do that as well. So we have a pretty packed agenda for the time that we have today. We have allocated 45 minutes for the webinar. We'll try and keep to that time, but if we do go over because there's lots of great questions coming in, then we're also happy to do that as well. So we'll leave that up to you. To start with, I will do a bit of an introduction to Google for Education and some of the updates that we announced back in January. I know for those of you that joined up for the webinar a while ago, things have changed quite dramatically across the world since then. So we are going to be focusing today on using the tools for distance learning. Then we're going to have Lawrence come in and he's going to do a demo on how to use Google Classroom, Google Sites and Google Forms for distance learning. And after that, updates from C2k in terms of where you can get support and help and training for some of these tools. And then at the end, we'll leave time for Q&A. So, Google for Education updates. As we're aware, there is a huge amount of information being pumped out right now by a lot of different companies and us included. So what we wanted to do was to make sure that there was a one-stop shop, one place for teachers to go and find the help and support that they need. So we've created something called Teach from Home, and basically it's a temporary hub which will have links out to really good training resources that you can use to help you get started with some of the tools like Google Classroom. The website link is there, teachfromhome.google. If you type that into your browser, you'll find the hub there. Feel free, it's open to anyone to go and use, and you can go and access the tools and share that link as you wish as well. We also have a number of distance learning webinar series coming up over the next few weeks, and we endeavour to add more to these as time goes on and as the demand rises for information and useful tips and tricks on how to use our tool in the current climate. You can find this in the link on the screen, and we will be sharing the links as we go through the webinar today. Obviously, we've got this one today. A lot of the webinars coming up will cover the same things, so you may not want to jump into all of them, but it's useful if there is anything specific that you want to head into from the list that's already advertised. We also have something called the Teacher Centre, and this is full of really useful trainings that either one can help you just get up and started really quickly with G Suite, but also micro courses and certifications. So if you're a teacher that's been using G Suite for a long time and you want to get certified and kind of get the logo and the certified educator stamp, you can do that on the Teacher Centre as well. And you'll find in there that we're adding more distance learning resources in there due to the current demand at the moment. But there's lots of cool tools that you may have not tried out before that you can go in and have a look at and how to get started. And some of them we'll be touching on today, so you'll get a bit of a flavour on how this might be delivered in person. But the stuff on this Teacher Centre is all teacher-led, so you can go on at your own pace and learn in your own time. So today we're going to look at a number of tools, and I just wanted to give you a quick rundown because I'm aware that some people on the webinar today might not necessarily know what we have to offer in G Suite for Education. So one of the first core tools really that I can think of to talk to you about is Google Classroom. And how we're seeing that use at the moment is really for this kind of project-based learning, which is much more student-led, where teachers can kind of go and set assignments and students basically pick up that work, go off and do it and come back and present it to the teacher as a finished project. Because of the sharing capabilities within Google Docs and slides and sheets, this also makes it a lot easier for students to work together, even though they may be not necessarily in the classroom together. So this is really how we're seeing Classroom being used at the moment. And as I've said, they can work collaboratively and use their prior knowledge to look at either new topics or to recover topics that you've already covered in class. And I think one of the key things that we've heard a lot is that teachers at this moment in time maybe don't want to be introducing brand new concepts to students where they haven't had any prior learning before. But Google Classroom allows you the space and the place to assign resources, to put in links to things that you want them to read, and to provide really helpful and useful information. Now, a couple of new things that have been introduced into Classroom over the past well, let's say since January, really, is one of them is called rubrics. And I know that Lawrence is going to go over this, so I'm not going to talk too much to it. But basically, rubrics is quite a US term. In this instance, it really means a grading criteria or a mark scheme, and actually can be used in a number of different ways. But essentially, it allows you to predefine criteria that you're expecting from a student for something that you've assigned. So that could be an assignment, it could be a piece of homework, it could be a piece of classwork. But what this allows you to do is, rather than kind of just give them a numerical mark, it allows you to give written feedback, you know, whether it's excellent or very good or not so, you know, not quite there. You can give this type of feedback within a rubric, and Lawrence will demonstrate this shortly. When we release this, there are a couple of things that people were asking for in the beta version that we made sure were available when we push this out to all classrooms. So things like being able to reuse and update previous rubrics that you've created and share rubrics across, you know, your school. If you're delivering the same thing as another teacher, you may not want to recreate the same work. So sharing has been made a lot easier, and exporting and importing has been made a lot easier as well. We've also announced originality reports, and I know that that Lawrence is going to touch on this as well. But basically, originality reports allows students to run their work through Originality Checker, and it will come back to tell them, and as you can see on the screen here, it will come back to tell them where maybe they've plagiarized and copied something off the internet, or, you know, if they haven't quite referenced properly, it will tell them where they've done that as well. And this is really not meant to be a punitive tool from the teacher. It's meant to be for students to kind of learn from the fact that, you know, if they run the report and they find that that they've copied a lot of work from the internet, for example, or from Google Books, that actually it's trying to teach them that they need to make sure that they reference where they get it from. So that's Google Classroom. And we're also going to have a look at Google Sites today. And a couple of things for those of you that aren't using Google Sites. Google Sites is a really quick and easy website builder, and it's sort of drag and drop. There's not really any kind of technical expertise that's needed to do this. And we're seeing Google Sites being created in a number of ways. So one is for teachers to create a site to kind of pop resources on, make it accessible for parents. Parents can go on and see kind of what work is being set, and also for students to create their own Google Sites as almost a portfolio of what they've been doing. So if you're not setting kind of really structured work for students to be getting on with, maybe they're doing some baking with their parents, or maybe they're doing some exercises, or, you know, and they're taking images of this, or recording it. They could create a Google site and share with you and share with members of their class as well. So we're seeing kind of Google Sites used in two different ways, but I think primarily for a sort of resource centre and an easy, quick access for parents to use. The other thing we're going to have a look at today is Google Forms. So Google Forms is kind of two tools, really. One is a surveying tool, which allows you to ask a question, pose questions, collect that data, and have a look at that data in a spreadsheet. Really simple use. But the other side to this is Google Quizzes as well. And Lawrence will show you this. But what we find is that with Google Forms, because it does automatic marking, it saves a lot of that heavy lifting from the teacher to go in and mark, you know, a quiz or mark the work that the students have done. And this can do it for you if you're doing, you know, a multiple choice question, for example, or a short answer question. We're also seeing this used currently for attendance taking. So teachers popping in a sort of you know, a name and date into Google Classroom so that students can register their attendance for the day, and also as recapping quizzes at the end. So if a teacher set a piece of work and they want to make sure that the students either watch the video or they've actually read the document that's been attached, attaching a quiz next, you know, underneath it will just make sure that the teachers are aware that the students actually undertaken the work that's been given. And Lawrence will take us through that in a second. A couple of new things that came out with Google Forms in January. So for those of you that have Chromebooks or Neverware devices in your schools, you're actually able to push out locked mode in quizzes in Forms. So it enables you to push out a quiz basically, and the students can't go and Google the answer. And if they do leave that page that they're locked into, it will alert the teacher to tell them so. So this is one of the new features that was introduced. And in addition to that, we've changed the kind of interface of Google Forms, and you're now able to import questions from other quizzes or surveys that you've done before. And we're also adding some new features such as auto-saving responses, so that if your internet goes or the page refreshes for some reason, the response will still be there. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Lawrence, and if you do have any questions, please make sure that you're popping them in the chat. We'll go in and we'll be answering questions throughout. But with that, I'm going to pass you over to Lawrence, who is going to do a hands-on demo of Classroom, Sites and Forms.
Thank you, Kiri, and good afternoon to everyone. So I'm just going to start from how I would go into Google Classroom. So I'm on Google search engine, and then at the top right, what I have here is my waffle. I'm then just going to click on Classroom, and that will load up. And as you can see here, this is my dashboard with all the classes that I have delivered some work to. So for the purpose of this demo, we're going to be using this classroom up here, Google for Education, Northern Ireland. So this is the home page, and this is what I'm greeted with. Up here, I have the class code, and this is what I would display to students in order for them to join my class, or I could simply send that out as well. I've got a tab here which has classwork, And we're going to go over this in a moment. And this is where I kind of like to say mission control. This is where the magic happens. Then I've got the people tab. And as you can see down here, I've got my students that already have been very good and signed in ahead of time. And then I can also check the grades from the assignments that I have given to them and mark. I also have the option at the top to add a co-teacher. So I'm just going to go and click on this person here, and I'm going to add my colleague Ben, and he will be invited to the classroom. So on his dashboard, he will get a notification that I've added him as a co-teacher to my classroom. I also have the option for, say, for example, if a student has joined my class late, to actually add them by their email address as well. So going to go back to the stream here. And what I can do here is I can put out announcements in the stream. So I can just ask, how is everyone? And then I can post that to the stream, and students could reply to that underneath. I could use this for a big question and as a starter to get my lesson started. I also have the option of selecting all the classes I would also want to send that to. So instead of coming in and out of classrooms, I can do it from one class to. Again, I can do the same thing with students. I can select all students, or I can select the students I would like to ask this question to. So this is good for differentiation as well. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And hopefully Kiri in the back end will answer that question. One of the feedbacks that I've got since doing the webinars is that they don't want students to actually start their own comment feeds in the stream. So what I can do is go to the cog icon on the top right, click on it, and then I can scroll down, and where it says stream, at the moment it says students can post and comment. So that means they could create their own questions in the classroom, and then students could comment on underneath that. Or I could go to students can only comment. That means they can only respond to a question or notification that I have posted in the stream. And if I wanted to completely lock it down and just have it as a tool to make announcements, and I didn't want pupils to engage with it, I could just select only teachers can post and comment. So I'm gonna leave it on that. Students can only comment, and just click save. Then that will be done. So it's brilliant. I'm glad you're feeling great, and there's some other people. I'm great, thanks. Great. Another thing that I'll quickly show you before we get into the classwork is on the hamburger menu. If I click on there, I can scroll down and go to settings. The reason why I'm going to highlight this is once you start using Google Classrooms, you will get a lot of notifications. So you can make a decision on what notifications you would like to see or receive, should I say, or you can just switch them all off. You can also go scroll down to the bottom and switch off notifications by classroom if you wanted to. I'm gonna go back into my classroom and I'm gonna create some work. So what I've got here is the create icon button, and I have the option to create an assignment, a quiz assignment, a big question, add some material, and I can reuse a post from another class that I may have created an assignment in, or I can create topics to organize my classwork. But what I'm just going to do is create an assignment to start off with. So I'm going to call this trip to Mars. Okay. I can assign it straight away, but that's not a good idea because I've not set any work. I could schedule it. So if I'm well ahead of schedule and I'm doing this right, I could send this ahead of schedule. I can create this work and schedule it to go out at a later date. Again, I have the different classes here that I can assign this to. And if I wanted to give different worksheets to different students, I could do that too. Got my point score here. And what I think is really important with the distance learning is actually setting due dates. So it helps kids realize that actually this is what's due in today and helps them to plan their time. So I'm going to have that in for tomorrow, and you could put a time in option. I'm going to also create a topic. So I can just click on topic and then create topic. And I'm going to call this Mars. Now, at the moment, I haven't attached a document or an assignment to this sheet. So what I'm going to do is click on add, and I have a couple of options here. I can add the assignment in from my Google Drive. I can also add a link to maybe support them and help them with the work that I'm about to set. I can attach a file, so I can upload something from my device and put that into the classroom. But what's also really good is that I can attach a YouTube clip, and this could be really helpful as we're not going to be there in person to actually guide them through, but I could actually direct them to some really handy tutorials. But I'm gonna go to my Google Drive. I'm gonna go to my Drive, and here is the folder where I've created my worksheet in Google Docs. So here's the worksheet that I do want to use for this assignment. So I'm just going to click on here. Now, I've done this, but I have greeted for a couple of options here. Students can view the file. This essentially means students can only literally just look at the file and can't do anything to it. Students can edit the file. This is when the file is shared with everyone in that classroom and they're working collaboratively on that document. Most of the time, if I'm wanting to get work back from individual students, I will select make a copy for each student. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And just be careful to double check that before you assign it, because if you do assign it and it's on one of the other settings, you do have to go back and create the assignment again. Kiri mentioned the rubrics. So I'm going to go ahead and add a rubrics to this assignment too. I'm going to click on rubrics. And because of the time, I'm going to actually import one from sheets that I had created earlier as well. So I just click on that, import from sheets. Again, I'm going to go to my folder where I've got my rubrics. I'm just going to double click on my rubrics. And I can just go through here and just double check my criteria if there's anything that I want to change. So I've got one for citation, I've got one for content, and then I've got the different level descriptors as well, assigned with the points. So the students will actually see this when the work is assigned to them, and it just helps them progress to the next level as well. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to click on save. And I'm going to switch on the originality report as well. So I'm just going to select that, and then it just gives me a warning. You can enable originality report on 3 assignments per class. Okay, so I'm just click on continue because I'm happy with that. And that's all good to go. And I'm going to assign that, and then Kiri is going to be working on that in the background for me. So that's just going to be pushed out to students. So as you can see, I've got my topic Mars here already. I can then go back and click on the actual assignment and view assignment. And what we've got here is I can see all the assignments that have been sent out to everyone there, okay? And I can actually jump into the assignment and see how they're getting on with it. I don't have to wait till the end of the lesson. I can just go in and double click. And I can see Kiri has made a start on her project. So I'm just going to go, I can flip through and see what's going on as well. And as you can see on the right-hand side, I've got my rubrics here as well. So I can go through and select which one, whatever meets what Kiri is currently working on. I'm going to leave Kiri to work on that for a bit, and I'm going to open up a new tab. And we'll go and revisit that in a moment. I'm going to go to forms.new, and this is just a quick way to create a blank form by going to forms.new. And as Kiri said, you could use forms in a number of ways. So one of them is to survey, and one of them is to create a quiz. So I'm actually going to use it to do a quick survey on and check moods of my students. I'm going to do a mood checking because I want to make sure my students are well. So first question is going to be name. And because I've done one before, I can actually import some questions. So to my right-hand side, just under the plus icon, I have the option of importing questions from a form that I may have used previously. So I'm going to go to import and double click on mood checking, and then I can see the different questions, and it tells me what type of question it is as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on how are you, why do you feel like this, and create one goal today, and then I can import those questions. So here are my questions that I've imported. So again, that sped up some time. And if you're working with grouped other teachers, you can create a form and have a list of different questions, and you can just import them as you go along. So what I want to do as well is make sure that they fill in certain questions. So I can then click on required. Then I can go to the next question, required. So I've got things like nervous, excited, proud, beaming, and then just a follow-up question asking, why do you feel like this? So if there's something that was highlighted there that, you know, someone said they were sad or sorrow, that's something that I might have to follow up or pass on to my safeguarding lead to maybe give a call and just check to see why that was filled in like that as well. So again, got that, happy with that. Let me just give it a title. So if I just click at the top, it will take the first line. And a couple of things to note if you are sending a form out is if I click on the cog icon at the top right, is if I click on restrict to users in my organization, they won't be able to fill it in unless they log in. But if I was sending a Google form out to a parent and I wanted them to be able to fill it in, I would then just uncheck that. So click on save. And now if I go to send, I've got an option to either send it via email, but the best way I like to send it is sometimes just literally getting the link to the form. But what I'm going to do, because at the moment that's a lot, doesn't look that nice. So I'm going to click on shorten URL, and then I can just click on copy. So I'm going to go back into my classroom, and I'm just going to have that form for a moment, and I'm just going to go through this. So on the right hand side here is my marking criteria. So here I can put the grade in, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at the content. So Kiri's done some great work. There's always room for improvement from Section of Scholar. And as you can see, it's updating there, and it's also updated at the top there. Let's have a quick look at citation, drop that down there. This is, Kiri hasn't done no citation here. So unfortunately, Kiri, I do apologize. I'm gonna have to say it's beginner. That hurt me more than it hurt you, Kiri. And then structure, I could go through and say, okay, let's give this a score. And then I could also go into my comment bank, and I could add some comments to here as well. At the moment, these are the comments that I have used regularly. Okay, so let's just say here, so, okay, very cute. I can highlight this, and as I highlight this, you will see the comment icon will appear. I can click on the plus to add a comment, and let's say, for example, I want to say, you know what happiness is. I can just start typing happiness, and without me having to complete the sentence or a phrase just from my comment bank, I can just select that, and that's been added. Okay. If I wanted to add a comment to my bank, I would just simply click on add comment and say, please, oops, please reference your work. And that would be added to my comment bank. So I've done that there. And this would be, my comment bank is just shared across all my classrooms as well. So one last thing for me to do is actually, I could give a private comment. Now I could say, please complete, oops, complete task 3. And this would just be given back to Kiri in her dashboard. So I can say post that. And that's been posted. And also the student can reply to my comment, and that would come up here as well. So that's another way of engaging with the student. I'm also going to return that, and that would also give Kiri her mark back. Click on return. That would be given to Kiri with her feedback. Now, another way of giving feedback is also using an add-on tool called Screencastify. So I've got this installed already. I just click on Screencastify. And the reason why I like Screencastify, it allows me to record the content of my screen. And then I can share that with the student. So if they're a visual learner, they can see me going through Kiri's work and explaining what has gone on. So if I just click on record, I'm going to record this tab, and I'll get a countdown. Hi, Kiri. You've made a great start on this piece of work. However, I'd like you to focus on task 3. I did ask you to do some citation and to find some resources from the internet, and you haven't done this at the moment. Okay, so I can just click on pause there and then stop. And what you will see will happen is, it will record my voice and my screen while I'm going over the student's work. And this is just a great way, because you're not there in person, obviously, that you can actually break down certain items for them as well. So I can copy the shareable link, and I can go back into Kiri's work and then just paste. So using Control V, paste the link to that there, and Kiri will also get a link to that video on the feedback that I've given her. Okay, and if I just scroll back up, I can check for originality as well. So this was just scan through Kiri's work and see if she's referenced anything, or if she's just taken an item from the internet and hasn't referenced it properly as well. So I'll leave that to run in the background. I'm just going to jump back into Classroom, and we'll go and see, check back on that in a moment. So I'm going to go back to my stream, and this time I'm going to ask students, please fill in the form below. So that link that I had put in from here, I'm just going to copy again, and I'm going to paste it in the stream and then post. So now the students will be able to click on this link and they would be able to fill this out. So I'm just gonna, Kira, could you please fill that out for me, please? And then we'll check on how the results will look. I'm gonna navigate back to my class, and you can see here, one student has turned it in as well. Now we're just gonna go and have a look at Google Forms, but from a quiz perspective. Okay, so I just click on the plus icon, plus create, quiz assignment. In the background, it's creating a blank form for me. So I'm going to call this general knowledge quiz. Again, I can assign it to different classes or students. I'm going to leave this as 100 because whatever point scoring system I give in the quiz will be imported and override this. I can again select a time and it's due, so I'm going to get this to be submitted today. And then I'm just going to double click on it before I assign it because I have to go through and put the questions in. So I'm just going to call this general. And I'm going to make sure it's required because I would like them to do that. So I can then type in my first question. Okay, what is the capital of France? So I've done that. And then I can put in the answers. So Paris, London, Manchester, making this really easy. But at the moment, I haven't selected which one is the correct answer. And to do this, I would have to select the answer key. Once I select the answer key, I can then select which answer is correct. So I go for Paris. And also what I would like to do is make sure I assign a point to it. So if I just go to, let's just say that's worth 1, I can do that. Whoops, it's not Manchester. 1. And I can also give some automated feedback. So if I click on add answer feedback, if they got the question incorrect, I could give them some feedback here. But more importantly, what I could also do is provide links to a website or to YouTube where they're able to reteach themselves as well. If they get the answer correct, I can just go, well done. Click save. And then I can add more questions, but I'm going to import some questions using that tool that we did earlier. And I'm going to go to my Mars quiz. And I'm going to say, how did Mars get its name? And that question and there. And I can import them. So again, as mentioned earlier, this is speeding up our workflow. And what I can do also is use images alongside my multiple choice for them to be able to select the correct answer. I've also got name one of the 2 rovers. And if you notice here, if I go to the answer key on this question, because this is a short answered question, I can also accept different inputs. So if they've not put a capital C or they've not put a capital O, they won't be marked down on that as well. any other answers that they put in will be deemed incorrect. And I've got a link for them to watch a video as well to get feedback. So I click on done.
Lawrence, I'm just going to jump in here.
Yeah.
So this is so thank you for sharing the quizzes and the surveys. I know that we said we would show Google Sites as well. So I'm thinking, with conscious of time and people have probably only booked out 45 minutes for the session today, would it be okay if we jump straight into Sites, and then that will give us time a couple of minutes for Q&A at the end as well?
Absolutely, no problem. So I'm just going to go to open up a new tab, and I'm going to go to drive.google.com and then click on new. And then what I'm going to go to is more, and then scroll down to sites. And as Kiri said, it's one of the most intuitive ways of creating a site and actually getting information out to parents, to students really quickly. So I'm just going to give this a title of distance learning. So I can just paste that in there. Got my distance learning, so I've got my header there as well. I could change the image for the header up here. But I've also got some layouts on the right-hand side that are really helpful as well. If I wanted help with my layout, I can also, if I scroll down, I can actually drop in that form that I created earlier. So say, for example, I want them to do a mood check at the beginning of every day. I'll just click on forms and double click mood check. And as you can see, that's been embedded in my site as well. Simple as that. I could use that for sign up forms as well, for check-ins. That's that done there. I can also, if I wanted to, add more pages. If I click on pages, I could just click new page, and let's just say parents, click done. And then I want to add another page, info. And as you can see at the top, this is giving us the links to the pages. But say, for example, I wanted this page to become a sub page. What I can do is just click on that and drag it on top of parents, and you can see it becomes a sub page. What's really handy as well is you can preview how it would look on different devices as well. So I just click on preview there. I can see how it looks on a laptop, on a phone, on a tablet, should I say, and on a phone as well. So this is a quick and handy way to get information out there to parents, to students as well. And you're able to insert anything from your drive. You've got your images and your text boxes as well. And then let's say I'm happy with this. If I wanted to, I could click on publish. I would just need to give it a name. So I'm just going to call this LTI. And then before I publish it, I just need to double check a few things, because at the moment it says anyone at Chrome School, okay, can view it. So I could change this. If I want parents to be able to view this, I could say anyone can view the published site as well. Okay, so just bear in mind what you want to do here and also what you're displaying on that website. So I'm just going to leave it as Chrome School at the moment. Then once I've done that, it will then be published. And I can go and view the published site and share that link with people. Okay. Kiri, I'll hand it back over to you unless there's anything.
Yeah, there was some really good questions actually coming in. A couple of things on the practicalities of using Classroom, for example. One of them was, how do we set group works? Lawrence, could you just head back over to Classroom, and I can just quickly talk through when you create an assignment and you go to all students. So someone asked the question, are you able to set group work? And the way to do this within Google Classroom, I did see someone put in a really a great response around sharing, a document with certain groups. The really nice thing, particularly if you want to differentiate a task for particular groups or you've pre-selected groups, you can simply click which students you want wanted to assign this particular worksheet to. And even if it was the same worksheet for a number of different people, you would select the amount of students. And for example, as Lawrence is showing, this would be one group. You would assign that, and then you can simply reuse the assignment and then select the other group and keep doing that. And what this would do is actually show the groups exactly what work they have to do, and not show everyone else their work as well. So that's a way to manage it in Classroom. But as someone rightly said, you could also, create a document and a worksheet and just share it with those particular students. I think the nice thing about it being in Classroom is it's in one place, so it makes it a lot easier to monitor and to keep kind of tabs on what's going on. Some other questions are coming in. I think what I'm going to do is pass over to C2k to start with, and then once we finish up there, we'll leave time at the end to come back to Lawrence for any questions that we have. So thank you so much, Lawrence.
Hi.
Okay.
As well, thanks Kerry and Lawrence. And we just want to make you aware that we are still available and continuing to provide support via our usual means. So our contact details, thanks Kerry, are on the slide here. Do feel free to email us and also to pass that email on to colleagues that may need support. In the site, or earlier in the comments, I have mentioned the C2k support site, and we are keeping that regularly updated. It is an open link. It's designed for teachers, for yourselves, but it is available if you wish to pass that link on to others outside the C2k domain. And you will find help sheets there that maybe are useful to send to parents about accessing Classroom and how pupils can get logged on outside of school. And we are, of course, posting videos and clips on all of these areas that we've been looking at today and much more. So there's lots of short video clips in there, maybe just 2 minutes, 3 minutes, on different aspects, how to create a classroom, where to find the code, how to disable the code, etc. So hopefully you will be finding that useful. And do let us know what other information you might like posted there, or indeed ways that we can be supporting you over these weeks. One of the things we're doing as well is the screencast series that you can see there. So we have 3 of these up so far, and they're available in the media library, and there will be others added on all of our e-learning support services or e-learning services over the weeks to come. And the G Suite ones will be posted in the support site as well. Thanks, Kerry. Just to highlight again then what Lawrence had mentioned about classroom notifications, I think people's inboxes are getting inundated with lots of email notifications, and there is a way that you can manage these. So if you go to the menu on your Classroom homepage, that's the 3 lines up at the top left, and scroll right to the bottom, you have settings there, and you can manage your notifications, decide which classes you wish to have notifications for, and you can also decide which notifications you might wish to receive. So that's really my input for here. Time is pressing on. I'd like to pass over to colleague Alistair Crease. Thank you.
Thanks, Esther. This was really the part of the show where we were going to talk about Neverwhere in schools, and the fact that I know lots of schools have asked for old devices to be rebuilt with Neverwhere. But where we are now with the situation that we're all in, what we thought would just to mention the idea that we know that pupils are at home and they're maybe struggling for access devices because they don't have the equipment they need. So one idea that they could consider would be, if they've got an old laptop, if it's an old, Windows 7, Windows XP even laptop, that they could choose to rebuild that with Neverwhere. Neverwhere, the home version of Neverwhere is free, and it basically converts an old PC into a Chrome device. So it's a good way to repurpose something that's old and creaky into something that will be pretty much fast and efficient. So it's definitely something you should be considering. I know that there's a lot of pressure on how do children actually access the stuff that you're all putting online. So it's maybe something you could be thinking about. And that's really all I have to say at this stage.
Thanks, Alistair. Thanks, Esther. I think what we'll do now is just field some questions that are coming in on the chat. And if there's anything specifically that any of the presenters today wanted to pick up on based on what they've seen. I've just seen one actually from Rachel, so I'll just show that for now. Does Neverwhere work for old Mac devices? Yes, it does. Mac devices, it does. iPads, it doesn't. That was a quick one to answer. Alistair or Esther, is there any that you've seen that you'd like us to bring up? I know there was a question about meat. I'm happy to lead on that one. I can't actually find it now, but so currently as it stands, as you can imagine, we've had a huge uplift in schools across the whole world using our tools. Meet being one of them, and we've had a lot of feedback from educators across the whole world about some of the features that are built into Meet that maybe aren't necessarily quite right for education at the moment. So we've had an influx of requests coming in, and our team, our Meet product team, are working away really hard in the background, trying to get these features out as quickly as possible. There are a couple of things at the moment that are restricting and not just C2k, but a lot of organisations from turning Meet on. And we're currently working on them to make sure that it's fit for purpose and appropriate for the education setting. As you'll be aware, Meet generally is a kind of enterprise tool and has always really been produced for that purpose. And now, whilst we're seeing this huge uplift of teachers needing to use video conferencing, we need to make sure that it's appropriate. So right now, from the Google side, we're working away and we're keeping C2k up to date with any new features that have been released as they come out. So watch this space. Hopefully we'll know a little bit more in the next week or so as to where we are and whether it can be turned on.
See if I could just pick up a question from Julie McCardle about uploading work from a book. Yes, people can easily take a picture of their work or maybe of any activity that they've been asked to do, whether it's craft work or something else in the home. They can take a photograph of that, go to the assignment, and then upload or add. And they have an option then to just select a file from their local storage. So they can easily do that from a mobile device or from the browser and submit that file to the assignment. So that's a great way of kind of doing non-digital work as part of their project work or their classwork. Thank you.
Great. Lawrence or Alistair, are there any questions that are kind of jumping out that that you'll be able to answer right now? Screencastify might be a good one. Lawrence, do you want to just explain how someone might go around inserting an extension into their Chrome browser? You're on mute.
There we go, with you now. What you could do is simply go to the Chrome Web Store, and then you'll be able to add, if you search for Screencastify, you'll then be able to add it to your browser. So what I'll do is just pop the link into the chat as well for you to be able to pick that up.
Thanks, Lawrence. We've had a lot of questions in about is it suitable to use in primary? And also, I know I did see someone mention foundations age. What I'll say from the Google side is we have tons and tons of primary schools using these tools, right down from kind of year one level. Logging in with their own credentials actually, and having their own accounts, and that's definitely the best practice that we recommend. And we see it used incredibly well in a primary setting as well as post-primary. I think the difference is for your context, you just need to think about the access to the information you're giving out to the students and what's appropriate for their age level, and that would just be the same for if you were doing online work or in-book work. Alistair and Esther, I'm sure you're able to share examples of schools across Northern Ireland that are using this in primary and potentially foundation years. Yeah,
absolutely. I think of a number of schools that are using it with foundation. Now there'd be a good bit of support provided to parents along the way, but I can think of some that are regularly setting homework through Google Classroom. Often it's just accessing links and sharing even spellings or homework tasks in that way, so that parents are aware of what's going on in the classroom.
Awesome. Okay, I think we should probably call it a day there, because we've already taken up more than we said we would in terms of time. So from me, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for joining to watch today. The link will be live and available to go back and watch after. So if you're looking to share with colleagues or teachers from the rest of your school, please feel free to do so. Just thank you to C2k for helping organise today and for coming on and presenting, and for really getting as many people onto the webinar as possible. And thank you to Lawrence for sharing some great tips on how to use the tools for distance learning. We appreciate this is a really challenging time, and a lot of teachers who maybe haven't accessed online tools before are being either expected to or wanting to jump onto some of these tools, and hopefully some of the information today was useful. But if that, a lot of information was passed over today, and I appreciate it. It can sometimes be a lot to digest. So if nothing else, just remember that there's lots of resources available. C2k have their own help support page for G Suite users, and we also have a teacher centre that's made and run by Google as well. So there's plenty of support out there. And as Esther pointed out, you have your e-learning leads for each of your regions. Please feel free to reach out to them. And we'll be sharing the content of today's webinar for those of you that signed up as well. Thank you so much for coming. I've seen lots of thank yous in the chat, so very polite and kind. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.